Anyway, so here's Robert Reich, and he says there's no reason to bail out big companies. That's what he says. There's not even a reason to do it. What? Hang on, let's listen.
From the global financial crisis, and you look at where we are today with the major stimulus coming out of Congress and potentially trillions more. Are these the type of bills? Are these the type of spending packages that are going to maybe rectify some of the damage, some of the inequities that were exacerbated after the global financial crisis, or is it just going to make them worse?
Well, the bailout part of the big bill, I think, is unnecessary. Big companies don't need to be bailed out. You don't have to bail out airlines and aircraft and Boeing. I mean, these companies have already been through bankruptcy several times. They know how to handle their debts. They have a lot of collateral. It's a waste of taxpayer money. On the other hand, giving each individual in the United States $1,200.
So just let me stop. It's a waste of money. We don't have to do this. And they did it immediately before they even did health care.
No, can I just have to.
And your progressive leaders let it happen. They put up no resistance to it whatsoever. They let it happen. Go ahead. What?
The only problem for me was, for some reason, the beginning of this, the audio, made me immediately think it was Mike McRae.
Oh, Well, there's more to this.
Yeah,
There's more to
go
this.
ahead.
Watch.
Is fine. It's a step in the right direction. But in terms of what a family actually needs to live on during a crisis like this, when we want people to be home, it's a drop in the bucket. I think it's almost an insult.
So, Robert.
So the $1,200 that everyone said, that's why they had to vote for it?
They had to.
They had to, because for the $1,200? Former Secretary of Labor under Clinton calls the Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi stimulus bill an insult. Why? It's an insult. Just so you know. That's the bill Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer put together, and then Bernie Sanders and the squad all voted for. The former Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton calls it as an insult. Okay. And also unnecessary. They didn't even have to do it. So what they should have done was taken that $4.2 trillion and given it in everybody's pocket right now. But of course they didn't do that. They didn't even give you health care. Now Bernie Sanders has to pretend like he's going to somehow pull it off when Trump's already out in front of him.
So when we talk about stabilizing the economy and potentially stimulating the economy, is there some sense here, though, that you do need to, at times, in certain circumstances, work from the top down? The idea being that is, if you don't save the airlines, and there won't be jobs left for the people who originally had worked there. Is there the sense here that if you don't sort of prop up these industries and give them sort of the capacity to sort of get back up and running to where they were before, that maybe the damage could be worse from a bottom-up approach?
Well, for very big companies, I think that's a form of trickle-down economics. We've tried it several times before in terms of subsidies and tax cuts and so on. It really doesn't work. Nothing trickles down to average people.
So, of course, the Bloomberg employee's question is, look, don't we have to give money to the corporate? Don't we have to give it to the top first and let it trickle down? Because if we give it to the bottom first, it might not work. That's what he said. That's what that guy works at Bloomberg. And what did Robert Reich say? No, of course not. You're saying it's going to trickle down. That's not how it works. It never does. Never, ever does. But this is the bill that everybody just voted for. 96-0.
These big companies, again, they can take care of themselves, and they will take care of themselves, and they'll make sure that whatever money is given to them somehow gets the top executives and the biggest shareholders. No, I think that what we really do need to do is take a deep breath and say the people who need help are the people we want, and these are average Americans. We want people to stay home for their own good. This is not about stimulating the economy. It's about a health crisis and that health crisis requires that people shelter in place. And when they shelter in place, they need money to pay the bills, to pay the rent, to get food, to just simply stay and keep their families safe. That's what this is all about.
So if Robert Reich knows this, Congress knows it too. So why would they do this? Because they do what their corporate overlords tell them to. And you go, but Jimmy, the Squad and Bernie, they don't take corporate money. They do what the party tells them to do. They do what their leader tells them to do. Because Bernie doesn't want to end up like Ralph Nader. And the Squad are all climbers, just like any politician. They're politicians. So they didn't even have to do this. Have you heard any progressive politicians say that they didn't even have to do this? Have you heard anybody say that?
Where'd you find this? Somebody sent it to you?
Yes.
Because I haven't seen this anywhere.
Mark Van Landy.
Ah, nice work, Mark.
There you go. Has anybody told you that they didn't even need to do this? And then the next question a reporter would ask, then why didn't you object to your leadership? Why didn't you call them out? That would be the next question. Why didn't you call them out if this bill isn't even necessary? Why are you voting for it? No, because they are not going to cross Nancy Pelosi. And they're not going to cross the media because they don't want to take the wrath of the media and they don't want to take the wrath of Nancy Pelosi. You tell fucking me why they voted for it. Nancy Pelosi, first thing she said when she came out and gave a speech about what they were doing on the stimulus, she said, "We are united." That's the first thing she said. Who gives a shit if you're united? That's her showing how good I am. See, I got fucking everybody to go along with this. That's what Nancy Pelosi's saying. We are united. Yes. So.
Yeah, well, she was the one who had the great idea of making the vaccine affordable.
Yeah. First thing she said, we're going to make the vaccine affordable.
You know, this whole crisis has exposed the ugliness of our politics and the lack of representation for the people. It's overwhelming.
And so here's another thing I found out. So how much would you pay per year under Bernie Sanders' health care plan? Where are you going to come up with $30 trillion? Bernie doesn't tell you how much it's going to cost, how he's going to pay for it. Here's how much you would pay for it. So let's say you made $70,000 a year, eh? Your bill would be $1,600 a year for health care.
A year?
A year for health care. That's it.
Not a month? A year?
If you made $60,000, it'd be $1,200 a year. If you made $50,000, it'd be $800 a year. And if you made under 30, it wouldn't cost you anything. If you made $30,000 a year, they'd charge you $40 for your health care. If you made $40,000, they'd charge you $400. And it goes all the way up to, if you made $1 million, they charge you $38,000 a year for your health care. If you made $1 million. Right now, we pay about $20,000 a year for our health care. And all they're going to do is charge a millionaire is $38,000. So I don't know why he never said this. Like, I don't know if he did say it. He never said it when I watched him. And I certainly watched him a lot. How are you going to pay for it? This is what it's going to cost. If you make $50,000 a year, it's going to cost you. I don't know why. And Bernie's cradle to grave healthcare includes dental, mental, vision, hearing, and in-home care for seniors. No insurance premiums, no deductibles, yearly $200 prescription cap, no huge copay bills. ACA Obamacare funding is $49 trillion over 10 years. Bernie's Medicare for All is $32 trillion over 10 years. Saves trillions of dollars. Why couldn't he say that? He barely, when Joe Biden's, how are you going to pay? Joe, it saves us trillions of dollars. And the only reason you don't know that is because you're paid not to know it. Just like the people in the news, because they're funded by Big Pharma right now. They're going to go to a commercial for a drug. Anyway. I don't understand that he has horrible campaign. He had a horrible campaign. Glenn Greenwald, I watched the show. As I told you, he makes the critique that, which was, thank God, backed what I was saying. You know, when Bernie would say, "Oh, Donald Trump was the most corrupt president," I said that gets you nothing. That doesn't get you anything. Why do you want to sound just like every other Democrat? Why did you do Russiagate? Because you're not smart enough to, and nobody in his campaign was smart enough to get out from underneath Russiagating himself, which he ended up doing. I said, as soon as you do this, it's going to come back. And of course it did. They Russiagated themselves. Hey, this is the part where I tell you where our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then I would tell you to go join our premium, but nobody has a fucking job. So why don't you just enjoy the video?